Hello everyone, the paper we chose for our presentation is titled What Bilinguals Tell Us About Culture, Cognition and Language by Judith F. Kroll and Rhonda McLean. We found this paper appealing because of the cognition part as well as the cultural addressing.
The world's population is around 7.6 billion people, and about more than half of these people on Earth are bilinguals and/or multilinguals. It is very intriguing how the brain switches from one language to another in different situations, different cultural contexts, or diverse settings. Nowadays, being bilingual is not just an exception, but it has become a pattern of kind of a globalized norm. According to the United Nations, up to 80% of the people in this world speaks another language besides its native tongue, and even sometimes you can find people who speak 3 or more languages, as we have seen in some acquaintances, who speaks more than one foreign language. Perhaps not all of them fluently, but they have mastered at least one of these second language. In the United States, 20% of the population define themselves as bilingual. Bilingualism is a standard for the 21st century. For many years, neuroscientists and psychologists have uncovered a large amount of scientific evidence that support the hypothesis that learning another language strengthens cognitive and linguistic development in individuals who learn an additional language. According to Judith Bhattacharjee from the New York Times, speaking 2 languages instead of a single one has a lot of evident advantages in the real world. Bilinguals have a better attention span and also can multitask better than people who speak just one language.
According to neuropsychologist Tamar Golan of the University of California, individuals with a higher degree of bilingualism measured through a comparative evaluation of proficiency in each language were more resistant than others to the onset of dementia and other symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. The higher the degree of bilingualism, the later the age of onset. On the top of that, bilinguals have a better stroke recovery and have shown lower stress levels. Besides these health benefits that bilinguals hold, they are more valued in the job market. Being bilingual will probably give you more opportunities and advantage over a monolingual person. If this being the case, a bilingual person will have a better chance of getting a job. I can speak of myself. While living in the United States, I remember that because of speaking Spanish and English as my second language, even not as fluently as today, I was always preferred by the employers over other monolingual applicants. And I recalled that while working, sometimes my coworkers asked me for help with monolingual Spanish-speaking customers. As we have seen, being bilingual not just makes you smarter or helps you to be healthier, but it also gives you some advantages when looking for a job or in certain situations. I always tell my students about these advantages of being bilingual in order to foster motivation in learning a second language.
But how can the brain switch from one language to another? Or how bilinguals switch back and forth from one language to another, sometimes in a mid-sentence, without suffering notable disruptions?
Different parts of the brain control different functions, including different aspects of language. And a big question is, are different languages stored in different parts of the language sections of the brain? Multilinguals show similar brain activation in similar brain areas when they speak each individual language they know. However, this differs depending on when they learn the language. We see different brain activity in multilinguals who have picked up their languages all at the same time, and those who have picked them up at different times. Multilinguals who acquire their language when they're young and at the same time show similar activation in parts of Broca's area and the left inferior frontal lobe. If the second language is acquired later in life, the language becomes centralised in a different part of Broca's area than that of the language they learnt when they were young. Researchers also found that when bilinguals flip between their 2 languages, they show increased activation on the right-hand side of their brain. They show particular activity in the area of the brain called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which also helps in executive control and attention to language. This expanded activity is so prominent that it's considered the neurological signature of bilingualism.
As we have learned in the Neurolinguistics Programming module, there are two main areas of the brain involved in the language production. These are Broca's areas, which encompasses the frontal gyrus, especially the pars opercularis linked to the Broman's area 44, and the part triangularis in area 45. On the other hand, there is the Wernicke's area, which each commonly encompasses the posterior third of the temporal gyrus, covering not only Broman's area 22, but areas 21, 37, 39, 40, 41, and 42. These two regions of the brain, Broca's and Wernicke's, conform some kind of network representing the motor images in Broca's area, indispensable for the speech production, and the auditory images in the Wernicke's area, essential for the speech perception. In addition, we found the arcuate fasciculus, which is responsible for connecting these two language-related regions.
There is evidence that similar brain networks are activated for L1 and L2 in the domains of reading, listening, and speech production. In addition, some studies indicate that a stronger cognitive control is accompanied by increased gray and white matter volume and regional activation in the frontoparietal network and basal ganglia. Moreover, bilingual generally showed increased volume in component language structures and the connective tracts between these brain areas compared to monolinguals. There are some factors which play important roles in respect to the different component process, and those factors are the age of acquisition and proficiency levels that further modify the location, interconnections, and intensity of activation in the bilingual brain.
Relating language and culture is a matter of multiple aspects. Language cannot exist without culture, and culture would not be noticed without language. Even same languages usually have several cultures. For example, the English language spoken in the United States has different dialects or accents within the country, which makes different forms of cultural and behavioral output.
In addition, people who are bilinguals or multilingual tend to travel more often from one country to another. Furthermore, they not only get to know a new form of cultures but also share their own. The resulting immersion of a certain culture could end up by different perceptions depending on the people, culture, and even on the age. According to the context of behaviorism learning theory from the 70s, bilinguals are classified into two main categories: compound and coordinate bilinguals. Compound bilinguals are the ones who do not have an independent grammar for their second language. Moreover, these people are the ones who are immersed into the culture and are able to switch between languages easily since they are growing and speaking two languages. On the other hand, coordinated bilinguals are the ones who learn two languages in separate contexts. These people live and speak their L2 or second language into their current culture setting, such as at school or at work, but also live and keep their L1 at home. Both L1 and L2 are languages that are completely independent.
Another definition could be added for bilinguals: the ones whose linguistic performance betrays a differential competence in the two languages are known as subordinate bilinguals. In other words, they tend to utilize first language translation equivalents.
For example, let's take Gabriella, whose family immigrates to the US from Peru when she's 2 years old. As a compound bilingual, Gabriella develops two linguistic codes simultaneously with a single set of concepts, learning both English and Spanish as she begins to process the world around her. Her teenage brother, on the other hand, might be a coordinate bilingual, working with two sets of concepts, learning English in school while continuing to speak Spanish at home and with friends. Finally, Gabriella's parents are likely to be subordinate bilinguals, who learn a secondary language by filtering it through their primary language.
In any way, independently to the accent or fluency a bilingual has, communication remains intact. The numerous purposes to learn and speak two or more languages play important roles in the teaching field. That is why we have discussed these topics to understand different aspects to be considered in the teaching practice.
We hope this video may help you to keep these different aspects and concepts to students, so activities could be more enhancing, participatory, and technical at the same time in order to achieve better results. Think about a holiday, a recipe, a party, an artist, a YouTuber, and any other means which could engage your students and yourself with culture and language involvement.